Thank you, Mike. Well, I welcome you tonight to Metro. If you're here with us for the first time, pray God will greatly bless you. We have looked for the last couple of weeks at the whole item of discipleship, kind of the lost art of disciple making. I'm going to give you a couple of verses as to what the New Testament authors thought about making disciples, about being about the Father's business. John said this, "I have no greater joy than this, to hear of my children walking in the truth." The Apostle Paul said this about a successful church at Thessalonica. He said, "What thanks can we render to God for you in return for all the joy with which we rejoice before God because of you?" Which simply means I can't thank God enough for the joy that I have bringing you people to maturity. Paul said to the Philippian church, "I thank my God in all my remembrance of you, offering joy in my every prayer for you." That's what discipleship does. You know, it grabs you at the deepest part of your soul, unlike anything else that you ever do, is to all of a sudden to be in tune with what the eternal is doing, to be the person in the middle between God and men, the eternal God and the eternal souls of men. And you get to be the one that grounds it out, that gets his hand on both of them. Generally in our church, whenever we see some guy, some girl get into the ministry and become not just someone that starts learning the truth, but starts doing it and starts doing what Jesus did and investing his lives in others, someone that starts not coming to be served, but to serve and to give his life for others, we've got to talk them out of quitting their jobs and just going off full bore, and that's all that they do is to make disciples. You know, just this week, as a matter of fact, just the last couple of days, and I have a discipleship program that I train men, and I had a kid 2 years ago named Spud Mathis from out in Jackson, Tennessee. This kid hadn't got his degree, and I want to disciple a guy that's got his degree. I want him to be done with college and show that he can persevere in staying with college. And Spud was the only kid I knew that moved out here just to be in the presence of Bible teaching, and he didn't have his degree, and he was going to have to leave here and go back home to take care of his mom. His father hooked him before he was born, never had a dad. This kid came out here to learn the Bible, and he got him a job as a taxidermist, a helper, and he ended up so good they just let him do all the stuff in there for the guys. And I'd see him with duck brains all over him all the time, you know. "What you got on your today, Spud?" "That's pheasant brains over and duck brains over." And this kid could do the job. He worked hard, and he was so faithful that I said, "Look, why don't you, before we send you back, you just stay out here, and you just get in my program, and I'll teach you." He was the only undergraduate kid I ever put through my program, and boy, was this kid faithful. And he got a job now that he works in an inner city ministry, and he has 2 Bible studies that he trains guys who now train inner city kids. In 1 year, he's putting the Bible into other people. And they just came today and visited with me, you know, and I put my arm, I'm 40, almost 6, this kid's probably 20. I'm twice his age. I just put my arm around him, and I guess I'm the closest thing to a daddy that he's had. He just looks at me with these big tears in his eyes. "Man," I said, "I am so proud of you. And you know, if I die now, I die happy, because I got a guy who's going to go on, going to be faithful, going to name his kids Tommy Mathis, maybe, or something like that." Old Spud. The greatest thing in your life is to come to know Jesus Christ as Lord. And the second greatest thing that ever happens to you is to be involved in others and bringing them to maturity. Now, 2 weeks ago, I showed you why we're to disciple. We are to disciple because it's our duty. Not because it's fun, not because it's a joy, not because we get something out of it, but because God in his sovereign plan has saved us and left us, and he has been pleased to take thoughts captive through us. And it's our job. It's our identity. It's our legacy. It's our privilege. That's why we disciple. Showed you last week what kind of person shares his life with somebody else. What I'd like to do with you this week is to look at just how Let's say that you got moved a couple of weeks ago and you said, man, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the will of God, and I want to be doing that. And let's suppose last week you said, yeah, you gave me 8 principles, I'm about a 5-3, I'm close, I'm struggling, but I'm not ashamed to take the word and put it into another man. Yes, I think I can do it. Now, how do you do it? How do you go out and find somebody to disciple? You know, the best way to find somebody to disciple is to win somebody to Christ. And you've got an immediate child right there. That's the best way to do it. The other best way to do it is for you to live such a life where you are, in your church or in your job, that freeze-dried Christians, those that just need some life to them, that are withered, look at you, and they say, why are you like you are, and how can I be like it? And they recruit you like often the 12 recruited Jesus when they followed him, as I'll show you in a minute. That's the other best way, is for someone to follow you and to say, would you help me be a semblance of like you, because I see enough of Christ in you that I want to be like you. That's the second best way. Third is when you recruit one. When you see some guy or some girl in your singles department, college department, wherever you are, and you see in them faithfulness and a heart, and the only thing they lack is just somebody to spoon it up. And I personally can smell these guys. They have a look to them. I can sense them. They have what one guy called the look of eagles. They have an intensity. You can watch them. You can see them. And you can tell that if you stayed there for 6 hours, they'd stay there with you because they want to know who God is. They're in the enterprise of knowing God. And you challenge them. Why don't you come with me? Every once in a while you can do that. Matthew, follow me. The other way is you can go to your pastor. And if he's not too intimidated, to let somebody else do the ministry. Because a lot of times we pastors are control freaks, and we're scared to let somebody else get the notion that the world doesn't revolve around them. How many pastors does it take to put in a light bulb? One. You just put it in and the universe turns around it. You know, that's the old saying. And we like to think that a lot of times. But you can go to your pastor and you can say, if you're of reasonable morality and wisdom, and you're a nice guy, can I help you? Can you give me some people that are faithful that I can teach them? Once you do that, let's say that you've got a guy. Let's say that there's a girl that came to you, ladies. She said, boy, you sure are sharp. Could I spend some time with you? You made a deal with him. Once you did it, how do you bring somebody to maturity? I've done it right, and I've done it wrong. I can help you pass out of some classes in this. Let me give you about 8 things on how you bring somebody to maturity. And let me say to you folks that if you don't begin investing your life in others, your Christian life is going to get very boring. Do you know that? And you're going to have to get some sort of methadone to give you an artificial high. You're going to have to become an intelligentsia, a doctrinal freak, where you, instead of getting a burning heart, you get a big head. Or you're going to have to become an emotional neurotic, and each Sunday try to get up and bump heaven just a little bit higher by getting your vibes roused just a little more. Or you're going to become a legalistic guy in a feeding frenzy that will never see a movie, some girl that will never wear slacks, some guy that will look like H. Ross, get a buzz cut, and that's what your Christian life devolves to if you're not doing what Jesus did. The Christian life is a relationship between the saint and God and being involved in the enterprise of bringing others into it. And that's when the Christian life gets fun. It really does. But up until then, it's just mime, just pantomime. Show you about 7 or 8 things. Number 1, boy, have I learned this in spades. Know who to invest your life in. Do not look for the best-looking guy in your singles department. I'm talking to the guys here. All right? Girls, don't be looking for the flashiest girl. Don't be looking for the guy that's got a graduate degree at MIT and to say, boy, wouldn't he make a great Christian? One of the guys that I'm discipling now is really debating. He played some college football, was really good. Pros looked at him. He's investing his life in discipleship, and he's thinking about taking some time and pursuing pro football. I said, why do you want to do that? To have people pay to watch other people come and kick you around in public. Why would you like to do that? He said, well, I like to try to make an impact in pro athletes' lives. I said, why? I said, they're the worst investment in the entirety of Western civilization. It's a professional athlete. They're too big, they're too strong, they're too wealthy, too good looking, too big anyway. And I said, man, they have everything going against them. Everything in their experience is anti-Christ. Why don't you not put your time into these, why do you want to shoot down these mugs? Let's go out and get some pheasants, you know. Why don't we go to the Congo and let's get some people that are barely surviving that know their belief system is decayed. Let's find some of them. Not that there aren't some great professional athletes, but the ratio is about 1 in a billion. So don't be looking for the studs. The Pharisees and the Sadducees don't make good disciples. Commit these things to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. Look for the guy that's called a fat man, faithful, available, and teachable. I don't care if he doesn't have a high school degree, if it's a fisherman, if it's a tax collector. Get the guy that comes early to set up chairs. Get the girl that stays after church dinners to clean up. Get the one that's off in the corner. So don't necessarily be looking for the studs. Let me show you how Jesus got a guy. Look at John chapter 1 with me, would you? I'm going to show you just briefly the first statement that Jesus Christ ever made to a disciple. First statement ever made, John 1, verse 35. And the next day, John, meaning the Baptist, was standing with 2 of his disciples. And he looked upon Jesus as he walked and said, Behold, the Lamb of God. And the 2 disciples heard him speak, and they followed Jesus. And Jesus turned and beheld them following, and he said, Now that phrase in verse 38 is the first statement ever spoken by the Son of God to a potential disciple. What do you seek? Meaning, why are you following me? Are you following me because of this ancient notion that I bring you into some great political grandeur right off the bat? Are you following me because of the miracles that I do to turn, that I can give you bread? Is that why you're following? Because of what you can get out of it? What do you seek? Why are you here? Let's look at motives. And the response is in verse 38, Rabbi, which translated means teacher, where are you staying? If a girl is walking across a college campus and a guy is following her, she said, what are you looking for? He says, where are you staying? That fellow wants to get close, see? And that's the way that these disciples were. What are you looking for? Answer, you. I want to know you. Now that's what you ask. Look for that little guy, that little girl, or the big guy or the big girl, the rich one or the poor one, but you've got to find somebody that's got that button you can push, that they want to know God. Look for faithfulness first. The guys that call me, that I disciple, I spend about 3 months trying to discourage them. Why do you want to come here? Let me tell you what it costs to be in my program. We study 250 hours, 6 a.m., 4 mornings a week, except on Tuesday at 5:30 a.m. If you're 1 second late, it's a $5 fine. Plus, we ridicule you and embarrass you. I want you to move to Denton, that hub of all culture, Denton. I want you to get a job, and I don't want it in your major. I want you to work at Tia's. I want you to work at Chili's. I want you to be a substitute teacher for $50 a day. I want you, there's no dating. And we've got a college service with 800 college and singles. mess with them, you're mine. And we're going to spend 250 hours. You're also going to go through evangelism explosion. You're going to learn how to witness. You're going to train 2 others. And you're going to teach them how to witness. You're going to get in a ministry, and you're not going to teach immediately. You're going to be the commode cleaner. You're going to be the chair setter-upper. You're going to learn to study. You're going to learn to serve, and you're going to learn to witness and train others. We're going to learn Bible study methods. You're going to chart Habakkuk. And I say, look, if you're a prima donna, I don't want you. And I spend all of my time trying to discourage them because I want the guys that are serious. I don't want prima donnas. And I tell them, you quit my program, I'm going to make an example out of you. I'll make an illustration out of you. I'll put you on tape. But you know what? Say this about men. I know this for a fact. Every man spends his life looking for the Green Beret, the SEALs, the Rangers, the Marine. He wants to be in something that'll cost him. And I find that men respond to a challenge, especially. So, don't look for the stud. Just look for the faithful, okay? Point number 2. Boy, I paid a high tuition on that one. Start slow. Write this down. On your discipleship, start slow and then up the ante as you go along. By this I mean don't make open-ended commitments in discipleship. Hey, would you disciple me? Sure. For how long? It's understood. Forever, until Christ comes. That's not what you want to do. You say this. Guy says, hey, would you train me? Maybe. Pray about it. He comes back. Would you train me? I say this to him. Let's spend 4 weeks. I'm going to show you what is the gospel, what is the Bible, what is, who is Christ, and what is the normal Christian life of Bible study, prayer, witnessing, fellowship, vertical, horizontal. I spend 4 weeks, and if it's somebody that's got the look of eagles to them, they got the excitement to them, they always say to me, man, they're drooling all over them. So they say, this is fantastic. And I say, boy, that was fun, wasn't it? Yeah. We'll see you. Well, honey, isn't there some more? Why, you want some more? I say, well, let's think about it. I'll tell you what I'll do this time. You pray about it. And if you want to, I'll spend the next 6 months with you, but the ante goes up. You're going to keep a yellow legal pad, and you're going to write down what you read, the day you read it, and what you learned. I'll give you 1 miss every month. That's all you can miss. You write down what you're learning. I'll be faithful to teach you these things. You've got to be faithful to have quiet times, keep a prayer journal, and you do some things with me. All right? All right. We finish 6 months. They say, man, that was fantastic. You want to go a step more? Yeah. This time, I'm going to get you a guy. And you're going to teach him, and I'm going to help you. You just bring that guy along. But don't make open-ended commitments. The first meeting, just talk to him. Find out how he's doing. And then teach him for about 4 weeks and just basic stuff, and then start making some requirements. You come to church with me. You have a quiet time every day. You serve in our singles department. You and I, we're going to set up chairs, and you follow me. Slowly and surely up the ante. When Jesus Christ started off, all the disciples did was follow him and watch him. And then he said, get a partner, go out and preach. And then he said in Matthew 14, you give them something to eat. Where are the 5 bread that these may eat? How many loaves you got? 5 and a couple of fish. What are these? Bring them to me. Bless them, now you give them to them. And he let them serve. And then he said, you make disciples, I'm going away. Took 3 years, but he slowly and surely brought them along. Start slow and up the ante. Point 3. Teach transferable truths. This is where in the church we haven't figured out the difference between Bible study and discipleship. Some of you, bless your hearts, yearn to be faithful in others' lives, and yet maybe you've spent hundreds of hours in Bible studies. Discipleship is not Bible study. Bible study is part of discipleship. But just Bible study is a one-way deal of I'll be the grand wizard, I'll be Mama Bird, I'll be the grand poobah, and you just sit and learn. Now, that's the way we Protestants have messed up Christianity. That's not the way Christ did it. It wasn't the Jesus Galilean lecture tour. There was faithfulness demanded, see. And we, folks, this is why I get to mad and embarrass myself, is because in Protestantism, we haven't figured it out yet. We still have preacher lecture tours, and there's a place for them, like right now is okay, but it boils down, Jesus taught some guys, but it boils down to discipleship. And by that I mean that you teach a guy, you teach a girl something, and you say, you write this down, because you're going to teach it to somebody. And we're going to have a terminus. I'm going to do this with you for a year, and then you're going to get somebody, and I'm going to help you train them. And if you don't do that, I'm going to consider myself and you a failure and unfaithful. You're going to go be a fisher of men. Follow me, I'll make you do what I'm doing. It wasn't just follow me, and I'll give you a graduate degree. Follow me, and I'll let you bring guys out of the darkness. Amen? Am I crazy, or is that what it says? I think that's what it says. But we haven't figured it out. So, get you a curriculum. Land's sakes, we must have 80 million of them on the counters. Go to Joshua's or to some Christian bookstore and order Design for Discipleship by the Navigators, 10 Basic Steps to Christian Maturity by Campus Crusade. And get the guy a $6 book and say, we'll do it together, so that when he finishes, he's got something in his hands. But not just open-ended Bible study. Teach transferable truths with expectations. Fourthly, don't just teach. Spend time. You know what I like to do with the guys that I disciple? I like to go jog with them. We go run. First time we get all the guys together, I'll say to them, how many of you guys jog? So we'll go out and run. And we'll just visit. And the guys will want to know about life and girls and ministry and girls and finances and girls, stuff like that. We talk about where these guys are at and what they're struggling with. We'll go, if I go down and work out at this place, I'll take one of them down there with me. And we'll just lift weights and visit. We'll go out to eat. I try never to drive alone any place that I go. I got one of my boys with me tonight. Dave Hamilton. Where are you, Dave? I know you're out there somewhere. Raise your hand. You're about 6'9". Where are you, Dave? There you are, right there. What a handsome man. He can't date for 9 months, so don't even look at it. Just forget it. Didn't we have a good time up there tonight, Dave? What did we do on the way up here, Dave? Sang fight songs. Sang college fight songs. Had a tremendous time. My favorite music is college fight songs. I got 3 CDs. We put them in. Oh, no, darn it. It's a great day. Yes, Thomas is good. So I just love these guys, spend time with them. We'll go out to eat. My wife and I'll have them over to the house. There's no revelation without some kind of intimacy, you see. And Jesus chose 12 that they might be with him. And this is why I say it's where we're failing in the ministry today. We produce these pastors, and I'm talking about my own profession. We turn out these bionic believers, and they get nervous when humans get close to them. And so spend time. Go jog. Go eat. Go talk. Have them over to your house and eat pizza, because a godly man is always seeking to get the inside track and to know about the tricks of life. And that's where you help him. Spend time. Fifthly, As you spend time with somebody, look for snares. Look for snares. My wife and I used to have guys that would live with us. We just built onto our house. And we would have men live with us and eat with us. And they'd spend the day with us. And it was a wonderful way to disciple men until my two sons got up to high school age. And I needed to beat them in private. So I moved the guys out. It would eliminate the ministry. But you know, I had a guy in the study once, and I would notice, great kid, but this kid would argue with a post. It was his greatest joy was to argue. And I said, Stud, you know, this homiletical fencing is okay with your pals. But I said, do you do this all the time? I said, you're going to get real old. Isn't that true, Teresa? Oh, real old. See what I tell you? You're just going to get real old. And you're going to be a real hard guy to live with. And you know, I saw that snare and we worked through that. Had another guy that he would just hit an emotional, just get wound tight. And his Christian life would just go up and down. And I would see a snare. He was a great guy, but I said, you're going to have to level out. You can't live always at Mach 10. You're going to have to learn to get a walk with God. You're always on speed. You're going to have to learn to spend time and to trust God, because there's times your emotions betray you. And that guy now is a Baptist pastor down in Austin, Texas. And he's still impassioned, but he's learned how to walk. Had another guy that I discipled, and I would watch him, and he was a real ladies guy in the good sense. He just was a great kind of older brother to younger girls. The problem was he'd get close to these girls and he would start sharing his heart real close, and they'd share their heart, and he'd just kind of build this bond with them. And I'd see him all the time sitting out in front of the house at the curb with some girl. And he's just building this bond, getting them in close, and then they'd get a little bit too close and he'd decide to be holy. And he'd say, I realize I think we're getting too close, we don't need to see each other. Felt pretty studly, you know, just kind of boom, cacked her off. Well, the problem is there was all kind of women with this guy as a doll sticking needles in him, you know, they hated him. And I got him off to the side and I said, you can't do that. Right, Tracy? That's right, you can't do that. I said, you think you're being a tight and good buddy, but you're breaking these girls' hearts. I said, you don't want a girl doing that with you. And we got the guy solid, and the guy's like, Christian work now doing tremendous things. And I've got a whole list of guys. I got guys that were happy-go-lucky, kind of like, you know, one of the seven dwarfs, just kind of just love them, you know. Problem was, you know, I said, hey, life isn't all fun. You're going to have to get some fiber in you out there. Lots of guys. Jesus recognized with Peter a pride problem. With the 12, a pride problem. Let me show you who the greatest is. Took a child. James and John, remember the problem they had? We went to find a place to stay, but they wouldn't give us a place to stay because we were journeying toward Jerusalem. How's about we call down fire and kill them? Don't you know Christ, it was a hard deal to do. One of them are one killing people that disagree. Hey, no, we don't do that. So Jesus would see in the sons of thunder. How would you like to disciple a couple of brothers nicknamed sons of thunder? That's a problem. So Jesus was always going, well, excuse me, wait a second. You can't do that. All right. Why are you hanging out with all these ne'er-do-wells? Come here. I'm the physician. They're the sick. We're here to heal them. That's why we're here. Understand? Quality of life. Sixthly, when you disciple toward the reality of life. You can't just teach people about the hypostatic union of the God-man relationship in the incarnation. That's all well and good. And you've got to teach that. But at some point, you've got to show that guy how to make a budget and stay in it. You've got to show that girl the art of relationships. You're going to have to show them the art of how to control their tongue, how to relate to bosses, and management. Stuff like this. How to relate to the body of Christ. So you don't want to get a jam down here between what they know and what they do. And incidentally, I hope this encourages a lot of you, because the best disciple makers are transmission specialists and bank tellers and businessmen and wives with a husband and 3 kids that have been through a divorce. Incidentally, your hardships and failures in life can be merit badges. They can give you a credibility. Don't think if you have hard memories out there you can't disciple. They give you an expertise in what you can and can't do. And so we found in our church, heck, matter of fact, the guy that I hired to run my small group ministry has never had a day at Bible college or seminary. He worked in a place that made satellite dishes. But he was so loving and so kind that he was a magic man. And I could put guys in his home. I could put guys in his study. He could get close. He could teach them. And the guys that he taught would always go to maturity. He had a passion for it. And I said, I'll pay you to do this. And so if you're just a good fella and a girl that people loves, put a little Bible in you, man, you can go a long way. So be encouraged. Just regular folks make incredible disciple makers. Seventhly, disciple with a view to ministry. Take that person from a learner to an obedient person that's getting the disciplines of quiet time, prayer, fellowship, witnessing, and then take them right on into, now we're going to get somebody with you and help do that with you. Incidentally, you know what the best way is to make a disciple? It's to have been one yourself. Have all of you folks had the wonderful experience of being accountable to somebody? Before you try to disciple others, maybe some of you need to go to somebody that you respect, their knowledge and their life, and say, could you spend some time with me? I just want to learn the Christ that you know, and to get a little bit of what you have. You help me. It's called mentoring. So, incidentally, this last point, discipling to ministry, I almost quit the ministry at this point. Back about 12 years ago, I got so depressed because when I went to Dallas Seminary, I went because I had a passion and I wanted to know the Bible. I learned the Bible and I had a zeal to do evangelism and discipleship. I took that knowledge and it just sharpened me and I loved it. I went and took guys and taught them everything that I knew. I was teaching guys Schaeffer's trilogy. I was teaching them C.S. Lewis. I was teaching them all the heavy stuff that I was getting thinking that would make them great. But they didn't have the passion for people. And what I turned out was great debaters. I turned out scribes. And they punted. And I almost quit. I thought real seriously, I was just that far from a phone call someplace to say, hey, do you need somebody to coach wide receivers and quarterbacks? Because I'll come do it, because I can't do this. And I just came to that point. And I said, I'll try it again. But this time, instead of making them great thinkers, I'll make them servants. And ministry turned around. So bring a person to the point of service. And you can do that. Let me show you something. Look at Matthew 14, would you? We'll wind this down. I'm going to show you something just really neat. The closer that Jesus Christ got to the cross, the more emphatic he got toward making the men leaders. I have noticed that people become the best disciple makers when they get old and they smell their own mortality, that they're going to die. And that Christian wants to breed. He wants to give life. He wants to cast his seed. It's like those salmon that will die going upstream to spawn, to cast their roe, to be able just to give life, because that's the way that we are. The closer Jesus got to death, the closer he got to building these men. In Matthew chapter 14, 1 through 12, John the Baptist is put to death, and the die is cast of the rejection of the Messiah. In verse 14 and 15, this is a pivotal time in the disciples' life, because he's going to get them to do what he's doing. Now, folks, I'm going to show you this text. It has blessed me for 20 years, and it's how God works in the life of his children, to bring them from a learner to a responsible producer. Verse 14. And when he went ashore, he saw a great multitude and felt compassion for them and healed their sick. And when it was evening, the disciples came to him, saying, the place is desolate, the time is past. Send the multitude away, that they may go into the villages and buy food. Send the multitude away. That's the way that we start, isn't it? Even though that I've learned some things, I don't like these people. Send them away because I'm hungry. And the most important thing in the world is my belly. Now, before you're going to become a producer, you're going to have to deal, like all of us, with that inclination. God and men are not important. My belly is. How I feel is. Whenever I get selfish at my house, my wife has a little tune she sings. Me, 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 I love myself. I have my picture on my shelf. Ain't that woman? Well, now you got to deal with that before you start making disciples. So you've got to see the crowd like Jesus saw them. Number one. Number two is you've got to deal with this command. They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. Now, he had never done that. Here is an enormous crowd. You don't have the ability to do it, but I'm telling you to live a supernatural life. You give them something to eat. Tell me, have you ever come to the place in your life that you felt the call from God? You've got a responsibility. You've got a crowd over here that's desperate, and I'm going away. You're the only one here. They're looking for God. The only flesh and blood that says is you. That's the way it is. Maybe it's not the best, but it's the way it is. Send them away. No. You do something. You give them something to eat. You've got to deal with that command. And you know what our response is? It's verse 17. We have here 5 loaves and 2 fish, which simply means we can't do it. It is absolutely impossible for me to do what you have told me to do with what I have to do it with. That's a fact. You have to come to that place in your life. If any of you have sat through these discipleship sessions and said, I can't do it, I don't have the tools, good. Because you're where you need to be. If you've been going down the list going, yes sir, check right there, you're in trouble. The disciple says, I can't do it. Here's what I've got. And I've got it from a little boy, but out of the mouths of babes. So if that's all you've got, God can use you. Dr. Howard Hendricks used to say to us, it's amazing how God can speak through you when you are scared spitless. Lord, I can't speak, Moses said. God said, who makes the mouth? I do. The next thing you do is verse 18. Make a note. Do not take your 5 loaves and 2 fishes to the multitude, because the first hefty guy in the front row will eat it like he's mad at it, all right? Hey, you got some food? Doberman down there. Now, what you do is take your life and do what Jesus says. Bring it to me. And you go to Christ. Jesus, I don't know what you're going to do with this. It's not much, but it's all I've got. And that's a big crowd. What are you going to do? Tell you what he does. He says, Father, I thank you for what we're about to receive. Don't you know they were nervous during that prayer? And then you've got to do this. Incidentally, have you done verse 18 yet in your Christian life? Where you have heard the command of God and you've come to him with the little bitty person that you are, and you have said, I am willing to be blessed and broken. Bless me and break me, and then give me away. I'm going to live for you, and I'm going to live for them, but I'm not going to live for me anymore. That's when things turn. Bring it to me. You can't do anything. Bring it to me. Come here, Gideon, you little scaredy cat. Come here, David, you little run of the litter. I'll take you. Come here, Esther, you cowardly little woman. I'll take you. And if you're willing to say, if I perish, I perish. It's amazing what he can do with you. Verse 19, then you're going to have to do this after you give it to Christ. Oh, this is tough. And ordering the multitudes to recline on the grass. You know how the multitudes recline on the grass? They're like little sheep. They're sitting down to eat, and they sit in hundreds and fifties. That's a banquet setting. You have to step out in faith and say, you guys sit down and you commit to the ministry, even though you don't know how it's going to happen. I'm going to do it. I think I've told y'all before about how I got in the ministry. A student teacher at Louisville High School, the coach came to me, said, could you come talk to my athletes? I said, about what? Christ, he heard I was a Christian. I went to my campus crusade director. I said, what do I do? He said, share the gospel. I said, who? Me? He said, you. What do I share? He said, memorize this. I memorized it. It was the gospel. I worked in a place called Chemo's Convenience Store. And in between customers, I would go back in the food locker, close the door, and I would work on my stuff. Hey, it's good to be here, if you will. That's the way I learned it. I gave the gospel. It was the silliest sounding thing you'd ever heard, but I gave God my loaves and fishes. God, you got to bless it. You know what? There were 16 kids there. 8 of them trusted Christ. One of these little fat guards down there, he says, hey, this is great. Could you come talk to the high school? I said, no. The kid stayed at me, and I said, I prayed. I said, God, I'm going to set the faith back 500 years. But if you want me to do it, here's my 5 loaves and a few fish. I had one message. That was it. One message. Barney Fife. One bullet. And I remember that great big crowd full, all crammed into that gym. And to this day, it was the most frightened I've ever been. It was my baptism by fire. And this guy gets to the mic and he says, well, the fellowship of the Christian athlete, time, now, hey, the altar, who's time, we don't know, just clap, here it comes, and I add at the free throw line, here's this mic, and I grabbed the mic, and my voice cracked. I said, it's good to be here. They thought I was the funniest guy, this guy's great. And I shared my message, Jesus Christ, and I didn't know any better than to be slick. I just said, let me tell you the story. Jesus gives peace and pardon and purpose and power. And I pleaded with them not to go to hell. I choked up. I cried. I said, thank you, folks. They cheered 150 of them so they want to become Christians. And I found out, God can bless loaves and fishes. Well, sometimes you've got to seek the multitude. I dare you to go to your pastor and say, I've been a Christian for 10 years. I've been to 1,000 studies. I'm willing to take what I've got and give it to somebody else. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but you seek the multitude. And then you know what you do? Jesus, I love to see that. The fish, it's the word, there's a couple of words used for it, and it's like a little hors d'oeuvre. These are not king salmons. These are hors d'oeuvres that are salty, that chase down barley loaves that are granola. So this little kid's got 5 granola bars and a couple of little goldfish. Jesus blesses him, and he takes the granola bars. Here, Thomas, take this. You're kidding. Take this. 10 guys got half a granola bar. Here, Andrew and Peter. What do we do now? Feed them. What do you do? I'll tell you what you do. You do this. Chew it slow. And I'm convinced they stood right there, 12 guys. What do you do? I don't know. You want to know? I don't know. I'll tell you what you do. You turn around and you go back. Hey, Jesus, hey, Lou, what's this? Oh, okay, sure. Would you like some food? Where'd you get this? I don't know. He just said it's good. And you keep going back. Oh, wow. You give all you have, and you keep going back. You start with just a little granola bar. How many of you's got a granola bar? Give it. I would take 3 other athletes to speak to schools. You know why I would take 3 of them? Because within the 4 of us, we knew the gospel. I knew something about sin. I could say, for all of sin and fall short of the glory of God. This guy over here knew something about God commends his love where we yet sinners, Christ died. He could talk about the atonement. And we would go around to high schools with 4 athletes, and we'd preach the gospel. 3 football players and 1 track guy. We'd preach the gospel. So you just take your granola bar and then keep going back and forth, and saying, God, you've got to do something. And you'll find out that you know what your last deal is? Whenever it's all said and done, that you're going to have to go around and gather up the leftovers, because there's going to be too much. You're going to find out that you've got too much to give. You're going to find out that you have too much love. You're going to find out that you've got too many wonderful things to share. You're always going to have a problem running out of time, because it's so great. And when it's all said and done, the guys that gave away got more than they began with. And that's what's going to happen to you. But you keep your granola bar, and when you eat it, it's all gone if you don't give it away. Give it away. Isn't that good? Now that's what it takes to make a disciple. So what should you do? Tell you what. Give you some options. If you have any sort of maturity to you, you go to your pastor. Go to your singles director. Wouldn't you love it, Doug? For some committed guys and girls to say, Doug, I'm with you, baby. I'll start off sweeping, whatever it is. When you got some people that need help, you just point me. You help me. Here's my granola bar. Wouldn't that be neat? You think you're in a dream. If you go to Prestonwood, there's old Douglas J. Hudson right there. Come see him. Got any other single directors out here? Any other churches singles directors? We got it? All right. Who else we got out there? I thought I saw my boy Howard Krutzinger. I used to disciple him. Howard, are you out there? Where are you, Howard? There he is. Isn't he pretty? That's Howard. How about the hands there, Howard? I discipled him back 3 years ago. Outside linebacker, Baylor University. I'm heck on Baylor University. And Howard works with Campus Crusade and high school ministry, right? You need some people to help you disciple high school kids? Very bad. Hey, anybody? Y'all survive high school? Did you make it? Go see Howard Krutzinger. Afterwards, you just hold your hands up. Go find Howard. Howard will put you to work. Right there. Thank you, Howard. There's people around here that need help. Go to Doug. Go to Howard. Go to your pastor and say, I'll be used. You got a woman's director in your church, ladies? Go to her and say, I'm willing to be used. You got ladies that come to Christ? Use me to disciple them. I'll tell you what else you can do, if you're willing. I've got a guy on my staff that is trained by the Navigators to do what's called 2-7. The most elite discipleship training in the country is called the 2-7 training by navigators. Colossians 2:7. Having been firmly rooted, now being built up and established in the faith as you were instructed. It's about an 18-month program with scripture memory, Bible study, and it turns out Rangers, SEALs, and Green Berets. It turns out top quality guys. You'll learn this stuff within about 18 months, and it'll be more than you can teach for the rest of your life. It'll be something that's the best thing out there, and I've seen all that's out there, and it's the best. The Colossians 2:7 series. And one of the guys on my staff is trained by the navigators to teach it to people, to qualify them. He'll take them on a Friday night, take them on a Saturday morning and afternoon. He'll show you how to do it. Because with the great many of you, you've got the want to, you just don't have a curriculum. You don't know how to do it. Well, that's the easiest thing. We can get you a curriculum. I made a phone call today to a guy named Bob Seifert, who's the state or the area director for the navigators. And I said, can I use my boy Brad Davis to do navigator training for anybody at the Metro Study who wants to learn? If you're willing. Now, you can't be just some old single barfly guy that's stuck in the middle. You don't get to play. And you can't be some girl that's sitting on a fence. Because we're talking about God and humans. You've got to be serious as cancer. You've got to have forsaken your life to give it for somebody else. You've got to be excellent and willing to live by a standard. If you're in the Word daily, if you've got a morally pure life, if you're honest about your sin, if you're under the subjection of a church and you're faithful, then you're viable. Now, I'll tell you what we'll do. You pray about it for a week. I don't want to hit you now in the middle of emotion. You pray about it for a week. And if you're willing, I'll take my guy and the navigator's Bob Seifert. And you can't buy this series. You can't go to a bookstore and buy it. The navigators issue it to people who have been trained. And we'll take you on a Friday night, about 7 o'clock to 10. On a Saturday morning from 8 o'clock to about 3. And we'll put you through this and show you how to do it. And you can go into your church and say, I'm trained in the 2-7 program. Give me about 7 girls. Give me 7 guys. You can be a married couple and say, give us about 4 couples. And you can take them through this stuff, and you can begin a lifetime of making disciples. Tell you what my prayer is before I came here. I said, God, we got about 2,000 singles here. I said, God, give me 5. That's what I'm praying for. Because those are the odds. Give me 5. Guys or girls that are willing to take up their cross and die, to give up their lives, to forget mammon, and to seek the multitude, and to say, God, here's my loaves, there's the multitude, there's the command. I can't do it, but I'm willing. And if you're willing to do it, we can introduce you to the highest, most enjoyable, glorious, Christ-like existence that you could ever imagine, of investing your lives in the lives of people. And you can do it to the end of your life, if you're willing to. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do. Next Thursday, no, wait, what night is this? Monday. Next Monday, I'll put a guy from 7 o'clock to 7:30, and you pray about it. And he'll be right here, sitting on that step from 7 o'clock to 7:30. You write your name down on a piece of paper with your phone number and your address where we can write you. And we'll get you together and we'll train you, if you're willing to do it. It's the greatest joy that you can have. One time my wife and I went to a movie. I got up to go to the bathroom, came back in, heard a little girl out there in the lobby. And this little girl was running. She would run down into one of these theater openings. Then she'd run back. And she'd yell, Mama! And she'd run back. And then she'd run into the next theater. And I'd hear her shout, Mama! She'd run back out. I said, that's a strange child. She's running there. Mama! She'd run back out. I figured it out. This little girl got up to get her a drink of water or something of the sort, and she got disoriented, couldn't read, didn't know what movie she was in. And so she lost her mind. And she's in the dark. And everything looks the same. And she's panicking. And I'm starting to see this fear build up in her. I approached her. I said, "Come here, honey." And I said, "Did you forget which movie you were in?" I said, "Well, turn around. I'm looking at the movies. You know, there's Friday the 13th, 12 over here." I wasn't there. You didn't see any guy's heads cut off. No. Just went down the list of all the movies. Benji. I said, "Were you watching a movie about a little dog?" "Yeah." Boy, she was excited. So I said, "Come here." And I walked her over there. And I picked her up. And we looked at all the silhouettes out there. And she spotted that one. There she goes. Got in right there by Mama. And you know, I was starting to leave, and that little girl, I watched the little body bounce down to the seat. And just before I walked out, I saw this little ponytail swish, and that she stood up and got in her chair. And she saw me back there in the light. I said, "Man, that's the way I want to spend my life." It really is. Of taking some people who don't know the lingo and that get lost and showing them home. And I want to spend my life with people saying, "Thank you. Thank you." I always love to watch the University of Kansas whenever they play. Because whenever a guy passes to another guy and he shoots it, the guy that makes the basket, makes the bucket, always points at him. "You." You ever see that? "You." The guy that makes the goal points to the guy with the assist. Wouldn't you like to do that? To have girls look at you for the rest of your life. "You. Thanks. I'm successful. I'm happy. You got me started." Remember how messed up I was? Wouldn't you like that, guys? Faithful guys going on doing great things because you took them. And you said, "This is true. This is false. Follow me." You got them pedaling. Keep on pedaling. Let it go. Yay! And when they get down the line, you. There is no greater joy than to deal with a human life. It's the most I can say it. You pray about it. I'll put me a guy right there. Dave Hamilton, you're the one. 6'7", you can't miss it. You give Dave Hamilton your name, your phone number, and address. Next Monday, we'll get a hold of you. I'll personally make sure that you get all the training you can get, and we'll send you out there. That's a promise, if you're willing to be excellent. Well, let's thank him. Our Father, what a joy, what a privilege to actually be used by the living God. How we burn the grain and house the chaff. Why do we do like we do? Why do we send the multitude away? Why do we make excuses? Simply because of our bellies. I pray, God, that we might recognize the things more excellent, the things higher, and put our lives not in splashes, but put our lives in ripples. And I pray, God, if you are pleased, that out of this group, there might be a handful. Maybe some of them are already doing it right now. Praise God for those that are. But there's some of them here, Lord, that have grown but have never cast their seed. And I pray, Father, for these that are the reproach of widowhood is upon them. The reproach of barrenness. I pray that you might show them how to be the fruitful mothers of children. And we'll ask all of this for Christ's precious sake and for his glory. In his name we pray. Amen.